This is a multivariate presentation on protest politics and the formation of social capital. I begin by asking, what factors promote greater participation in protest politics? Demonstrations allow citizens to challenge political agendas in a more active way than, for example, voting, since they are organized in relation to rising political dilemmas. I examined two sets of factors consisting of three independent variables using a regression analysis and followed with controlling for a fourth independent variable. The first set reflects the idea of associationalism and the formation of social capital suggested by the theory of Robert Putnam. Associational links equip citizens with the tools and bonds that allow for problems to be solved through collective political action. However, rather than lumping all associations in a categorical fashion, I divided this set into two distinct independent variables along political economic organizations and community-based organizations, where the type of association one participates in has great qualitative implication on the degree to which social capital forms. The second factor is that of interest in politics, which represents an indicator for level of psychological cognitive involvement of individuals, which then can take a form of a more physical way in a demonstration. Citizens who are more interested in politics want to affect their immediate socio-political environment. We thus hypothesized three different relationships. One, as citizens exhibit increased rates of membership in political economic associations, they will be more likely to demonstrate higher participation rates in political protests. Second, as citizens exhibit increased rates of membership in community-based associations, they will be more likely to demonstrate higher participation rates in political protests. However, membership in community-based organizations is predicted to influence level of participation in much lesser degree than do political economic associations. Third, as citizens exhibit higher levels of interest in politics, they become more likely to demonstrate higher participation rates in protest politics. These hypotheses can also be expressed graphically in the following way. I used the International Peace Protest Survey from a pool of 5,145 valid cases. I created an index for my dependent variable, protest participation, where respondents were asked to indicate in questions V0 160 to 162 and 164 to 168 which demonstration they have engaged in before. I added 8 different types of demonstrations consisting of peace, anti-racism, human rights, social or labor, environment, anti-globalization, women, and nationalism protests. With an alpha score of 0.69, we see that indeed the indicators can combine to form an index. Next, I created an index for my independent variable, political membership. Respondents were asked in questions 17, V19C, E, F, I, and M through P to indicate in the list which kind of organizations they have been either active, inactive, or form a member of. I added 8 items consisting of anti-racism organizations, labor union or professional organizations, political parties, environmental organizations, anti-globalist, third world, human rights, and peace organizations. The alpha score of 0.7 indicates the items indeed can form an index. I created another index for the second independent variable, communal membership. I used the same question as for my previous independent variable, but in this case I used indicators V019B, G, H, and J through L. I added 6 items consisting of churches, women's organization, sport or recreational organization, art, music, and dance, as well as neighborhood and charitable organizations. While the index demonstrates an alpha score of 0.48, which is quite below the threshold, I believe the index holds a substantive theoretical weight, and therefore I proceed to test its relationship with our independent variable. Accounting for the third independent variable, interest in politics, respondents were asked to respond to question V0120, asking how interested in politics were they. I proceeded with a regression analysis, where we see that the equation is statistically significant as a whole, and it accounts for 13% variation in the population. The t-test indicates that all individual variables are statistically significant. The unstandardized coefficients value reveal that participation in protest politics depend in part on membership in a political economic association and in part on interest in politics. The beta values indicate the relative influence of political membership as the greatest, followed by interest in politics, with communal membership showing as having the weakest relative influence. All in all, the data seems to support the first and third hypotheses. The more striking data here, however, is that while it was predicted that communal membership would drive up levels of participation in a demonstration, we are faced with quite opposite effects. Communal membership is seen as eroding propensity to participate in protest politics. How can we account for the discrepancy? It is possible that membership in a communal setting might be indicative of low levels of trust in leadership and institutions at the aggregate level, where individuals who participate in community-based associations may be doing so as a result of growing cynicism in national politics. The theory, however, is better left for future research. Taking into account that our variables may have more than one source of variation, I attempted to reduce this effect by controlling for the effect of gender and attempt hierarchy in relation to membership in political economic association. Elizabeth Zungel states that there is a strong interplay between gender and social capital formation. Associations remain gender segregated, where males are more attracted to economic and political associations, and females tend to populate peripheral associations consisting of domestic or community-based associations. When controlling for the effect of gender, acting as a dummy variable with male scored as the high value, we predict that the relationship between membership in a political economic association and participatory behavior will be influenced by the existing gender gap. Thus, gender can be theorized to be causally prior to political membership in a model of partial explanation, as seen in the graph below. The new regression model shows that gender is insignificant and that the hierarchy model indicates there is practically no change. B values remain essentially consistent for both communal membership, political membership, and for interests. Thus, this is a case of replication. We therefore draw the following conclusions. The hypothesized relationship between membership in political economic associations and participation in protest politics has been affirmed. The same goes for interest in politics. In contrast, the hypothesized relationship between membership in community-based associations and participation in protest politics has been invalidating, resulting in suggesting a new theory. When controlling for the effect of gender, we see that gender bears no relation on protest politics. Thus, we might consider new lines of research. We might consider ethnocentric demarcations where gendered associationalism is subject to cultural variation. Another consideration might be in rethinking our categorization of associations. Many organizations in the political membership index appear to be non-traditional in nature, for example, Third World Organization or Anti-Globalization Organization. Perhaps a more proper inquiry would be regarding the effect of emerging new politics-type associations. The last thing to consider would be our methodology. This study uses a pool of self-selected cases or individuals who are already participants of a demonstration. An alternative conclusion might be that a more representative sample would yield different results. To conclude this presentation, I present you with my syntax.